Okay, I wanted to go a little farther on the theory and some understanding of how learning occurs again, and go a little deeper into this because it starts off with the concept that we have of how the universe functions. And if we're coming from a paradigm, an auspice of believing in the way that we were told our mind works, if we are already caught up and in a philosophical conundrum, a philosophical comprehension that the world works in a certain way, if we don't start from the right point, we're we're doomed in our way in our experience. We're doomed in learning, and it comes down to this. I know that's a little abstract, but it comes down to map making. It comes down to a higher understanding. It comes down to how is a map made? You could walk the earth and you could make a map that way, or you could get in a helicopter and you could look down and draw a map. Now, this is the philosophy, this is the understanding, the wisdom that people have. This is how a an older person can can have wisdom and understanding that a child does not, because they're in a helicopter. This is how people that have had different experiences have a higher view of something. And there's a lot of people that are walking this planet right now with the wrong map. And quite literally, if we get to even a larger concept, if we're given a map that the earth is a globe and it's not, we've already started off on the wrong foot of how everything works. If we're given incomplete science or wrong science and scientism, if we're given religion and told it means one thing, we're starting off at the wrong foot. We're totally, we have the wrong map. How could we ever get to where we're going and where we want to be if all we've been delivered is a map that is based upon the monetary fiat system, upon power? If the people in power want to maintain power and their power is through lies and illusion and fooling, then we're given the maps that subscribe to their theory of the universe. And if anybody can't understand that, it runs the gamut through everything. Everybody wants to know it's our science isn't tainted, our religion isn't tainted, our medicine isn't tainted, our school systems aren't tainted. They most certainly are. Every single thing that you've ever touched has been tainted by the misguidance of people that would like to maintain power control over you, whether it's just your mind or your physical experience. But mostly it's the psychological perspective that you have, what you think the world is, what you think learning is. And so, again, I say all of this to get to this foundation, this singular point. And it even has to do with my last video of starting with a blank slate. What is death? And what would you perceive if you just came out of a womb? What would your experience be on this earth? What would your understanding be? How do you actually absorb information? How do you collect an experience? How do you put that into your body? How do you put that into your mind? How do you come to thinking? How do you become whatever it is? And a lot of things that we've become individually and collectively, a lot of these things that we've put into us have been false. False idols, false gods, false information, false material, weak material, salts. There's so many things that we've put into us that don't have foundation. And if we've been given a foundation that isn't true, then no wonder we can't learn correctly. No wonder even if someone were to just stand there and be like, here's the correct system. Here's how it works. It would be hard for people to accept. In fact, for some people, it may be impossible to even theorize that there's another way of learning, that if they've been through the indoctrination system, and if you don't think you have been, then you're twice as badly indoctrinated. If you don't understand that you need to release the way that you think your mind works, that you need to release rote learning and the concepts, and even the most fundamental thing, what you think of language. Even me speaking right now, there is a difficulty. There's obviously a difficulty in explaining a concept. And it's not that I'm explaining a concept, I'm trying to explain away the concepts that have been given to you. So we fundamentally have to consider what is memory and what is our experience. And starting from there, then we can understand how we can learn to learn correctly. And in fact, it's not learning, it's unlearning the things and starting with our primary code, our primary source of experience to gain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the universe is one thing. It's pictures. It's the three things that I wrote in the other video, which I'm responding and going farther on, which is that we have our imagination and we have our feeling of it. We have the thing that is, we have the experience as a child without language. Remember, language is a program. So even trying to explain the primary source with using language becomes tough. So what we're trying to do is I'm trying to explain how abstract language, because language is a tool that is an abstraction of reality. I'm trying to explain how that we can actually link up and we can use the system that we have now, the English system, and link it up to something that's real, to link it up with pictures, to link it up with what our memory is. Memory comes of two words, meminori, meaning water and light. And when you bind those two things together, you get what we are. You get the experience. You get what is inside of memory. Water is the containment and fire is that sunlight energy. It's the vibration. One is a static thing and one is the wave. So when we combine that together, we get what is memory. And that memory is always put in our mind as a picture. Then we abstract that picture and tell stories with words. Now, how do we get back to that source? Well, we have to use our systems that we already have in front of us, which are numbers and letters, and we connect those back to images. So we use our mind and our images in our mind. I'm not going to go through the whole lesson here, but here's the simple idea that because what we have is locator points and lokeys, we have things that we have ground into our mind, even though they're abstract, numbers and letters and all of these things. We've put these into our mind as placeholders. Everybody knows what the numbers 1 through 9 are, that we have that. We all know the alphabet. So those things are secondary software programs that are in our mind that we can use to actually link up with the source code, with the source of what our experience is, which is non-abstraction, which is actuality, which is that's a cat there. But we've agreed upon the term cat, C-A-T. We've agreed upon that. We've agreed that that means cat, but it doesn't have to. Why? In the beginning, there was a word because we named it that. But now that we've agreed upon that, it's still secondary to what that cat is. But the image of the cat, the image of the cat and what that cat is as an experience, meaning pet the cat, you can feel the cat. There's the matter and there's the experience right there coming together. You know what that is. So there's your memory. There's what's inside of your head. There's your image. Now attaching that to the letters and numbers, we can form something. We can form a house, a temple inside our minds to store memory. So for instance, we could use an image. So if we did, let's just look at the numbers. Let's just use a simple exercise. We'll go over this in the future a little deeper, but this is just to give, this whole thing is just to give once more an idea of how the brain has functioned. We've learned through the wrong ways. And let me go once again and say this: rote learning is not the way that anybody learns. Repetition learning, it does not occur. You can use repetition learning for the body, to teach the body something, pattern recognition with the body, but the mind doesn't work that way. Although we've used the mechanical, materialistic worldview of how the body learns through repetition and applied that to the mind. Listen to that again. We've taken the world, the material world, and the way that your body, being part of the material world, it learns through repetition. And we've taken that philosophy and we've stuck it in the mind and say, oh, this is how the mind works too, when it's not how the mind works. Well, how do you think it is that when you go outside, everybody's like, oh, I remember everyone's face, but I can never remember their name? Perfect example. Yeah, of course, because that's how you learned. You just looked at it and it's learned. It's in there. It's a picture. It's a memory. You have that. You can't remember their name because the name is the abstraction. The name is the thing that is the materialist's view of the world, where they used the imprinting methods of, oh, that's language. That means that, oh, we speak English. It's a common, but it's only an agreed upon something. This is why there's so many different languages. Here we call it a cat. Somewhere else we call it a, who knows? Put a couple of sounds together. That's what that means. So there is no true whatever the cat is, but there is that face that you can recognize. There is that image. So we have to, this rote learning that occurs is not proper. It's only to function to turn people into robotic automatons to perform a certain task. And sometimes that task is a specific series of codings and thoughts, meaning how to program something into a computer or how to go through a set of methodologies. But the overarching way of learning the entire system from the perspective of a helicopter, from getting out of body, from seeing the earth as what it is, from seeing your body for what it is, even if you want to learn things that seem to be hard sciences, you learn them through the actuality of your existence, which is visualization and knowledge of experience. And then it's taking it to the next step and taking that image that you have and connecting it to what we already know that has been hardwired into our brain as numbers and letters. And so, for instance, we could use the number 1, and it resembles something in our mind, like an arrow. And the number 2 could represent a swan. And we could go down the line here, and each one of these numbers will have a picture that we can almost immediately, when we think of it, turn into what is an actual image. And so now we can use that image of what the 1 is. This again is to unlearn what you've learned and to relearn something new. And the relearning of it is a little bit of a process, but it gets you back to the source code. So if you were to use that number 1 as an arrow, then you could take a bunch of things. Say you wanted to remember your list of what you wanted to go shopping for. You could easily remember 9 things by doing something. But if I were to tell you to remember 9 things right now, there's just about no one that could recall that in 20 minutes, unless they were using visualization, unless they were using some sort of method of, if they tried to remember the words, if I say I wanted some soda, if I say I wanted some bread, broccoli, and I go through this list. If I said all of these things and I said to you, okay, go get those and remember them, you know, pen and no paper, there wouldn't be too many people, unless they knew how to use their actual visualization, there would be no one that could do it. But now if you instead locate and put some points together and you say, well, okay, I know what 1 through 10 is. I got 10 things I got to get. And you say number 1 is an arrow, and I need some bread. So you make an image in your head. You tell yourself a story, and that story, you're not using words. You're taking those words, which is bread, and that word, which is arrow, and you're collapsing that in your darkness, your mind. You're putting that into the image that it is, the actuality of what memory is. Language doesn't exist in reality, so you're taking those pictures. And now you throw that arrow into a piece of bread, and it's in this really it's in a grocery store. You throw that arrow from your house, it goes and hits a thing of bread in the grocery store. And then you need that broccoli. And then that bread starts bleeding all over. You slip in it and you walk over and you hit your head on a big thing of broccoli. Now, see, this type of story you can put together, and this is just the beginning of the idea, because it goes into a lot more of how to use locators and to use the things that are letters and numbers to turn what is a visual reality into these abstractions, into words. And now we can use this to learn to communicate and to tell stories and to have memory of things. So again, I'm not going into all this right now because this is a very long lesson in and of itself, but I just wanted to again touch on the idea of how this works, why it works, and what you need to get rid of. It's again getting rid of the programming, getting rid of the way that you have been taught to learn. because you've been taught to learn in a way that is not conducive to being creative or being human. Why it's this whole thing of language. It was the first tool, and we've used the tool improperly. Just like people using a knife that they could cut something with to use it as a sword to try to stab someone. They've misused the tool. Now we can learn to use the tool correctly, to use the language correctly. So to use it for what it is, it's a method to tell story. It's not what you think it is. It's not. People are like, oh, that is that thing right there, where we have to get rid of using words and these letters as some sort of, and it gets into semantics. I've had a couple conversations with people, and it's this Noam Chomsky, this system semantics and ways that we can chop things up and divide it in so many different ways, and the story can fall on deaf ears. The lesson, the allegory, the meaning can just vanish. And it's all because we've taken the language and we've turned it into a god. We've turned the language, and it was never. It was at best a demigod, and it was even beneath that. It was just a tool. The language is a tool, but we've used that language as everything. Oh, he said that, she said that. Well, what did they mean? Now all of a sudden language is colored, and there's many more layers to it. And then where did that language come from? And then we get back to, oh, it came from an image. It came from an experience. So people use language to tell someone something, and they're always talking about an image they have in their mind and an experience they might have had or an experience they'd like to have. And it comes out in all different ways, but we listen to it and we key in on certain words, and that word, I don't like that word because you had a bad experience. And we've missed the boat. We've lost our way because the language started to become the archon when it never was supposed to be. We were given a map that was not true. We were given a map of an earth that isn't true. We were given a map of consciousness that isn't true. We were given a map of religion as an exoteric subject, but it was actually just all told as a story of allegory, of the stars, of your body, of what's going on internally. But they didn't tell you specifically. They were telling you in a story form. And so all of these things have gotten confused. We've taken the story and we've said, oh, that is a matter of fact. It's a matter of fact that guy existed, and it's a matter of fact that that's like that. And but then everybody in the science community, well, science is, science, there's hard science. Well, yes, there's some things that are observable, but then we have to go back to, well, are we certain of the science that came before that? Are we certain that wasn't already steered by the financially enabled systems? I mean, we can look at so many. Everybody can look outside of them and go walk up and down the aisles of the stores and go, well, is that really good for us? Look at all the food that we're being. Okay, we can agree that, like, even people that eat the stuff, we can agree that most of the food that's in the middle of the store is probably not it's not food. It shouldn't be for human consumption. And then we could start to look at, oh, well, that was motivated by marketing and motivated by money and people working. And then, but science is, and doctors are good. Well, yeah, everyone's a good person. Everybody has good motivations. But now all of a sudden we look into the whole business. It's a business. How much for that pill? Where did that pill come from? Where did that food come from? Where did that medicine come from? Where did that science come from? Well, if people have a belief system of certain things in their scientism, well, then they're attached to that, and there's money in science. So let's back up. Let's get to what's the basic thing. Sit down in meditation. There's your experience. Now what's beyond that? What can you learn? Where can you go from there? Okay, what has science given us that the earth didn't? And when I say science, I'm talking about the people that believe in science as a god, the same way. What does religion give us? The same way that religious people find, their god figure, whatever religion they might have. Like, there's some good in each of them, but there's also when it's used as even in the religion, they tell you this, and this should be run the same gambit for science. And it's that you can't You can't pray to an idol, a false idol. And anything outside of yourself is the false idol. What does that mean in science? It means, well, that people are sitting here on the backs of ideas and eidolons that maybe don't even exist. There's so many theories in science that have, oh, we just take the word for the people that came before us, just like the priestcraft, when they might have been either wrong, or it was a theory, or outright lying. And when there's money involved, these things happen. And I know this sounds like a rant, and it is a little bit, but it's very important that all of these things are part of the larger paradigm of why people can't learn, don't learn, because we have the wrong maps, we have the wrong set of instructions, we have the wrong, we have the misguided information, we have the foundation of where this stuff came from. When it comes from anything to do with money, which means leveraging, it can quickly go the wrong way. And so if we look at the way that we learn, we get into the education system, where it came from. It came out of Prussia. Get into the education system as for what it is, which is teaching people to be part of a corporation so they can produce product. And now if anybody that's into science, every business that has any money attached to it, any corporation that has an identity they're trying to serve, a godhead, a God figure, whether your God is Nike, or your God is Jesus, or your God is what you consider science. The scientific method is just wonderful and fine and absolute. But when it's attached to a product, it's attached to someone's idea of whatever it might be, things can go wildly wrong. And I know this is a very long rant, but again, this is just, we have to get to this idea of comprehending that the mind works off of image and then experience. And how can that better everyone's experience? Well, I think there's a lot of things that we need to get rid of first. And it's getting rid of so much of the pseudoscience. And people call things that are, and it's so funny because everything's been flipped around and backwards. So now a lot of pseudoscience gets thrown at, if it's not popularized, if it's not popular, it just gets thrown in the bin of pseudoscience. And it's, before I go too far in this rant, so once again, we're just talking about how to learn better, what memory is, how your mind functions. Because all of those things are done. So from here forth, just know that your mind works off of images, and we can talk about how to make images in your mind more preferential towards the ideas of what you'd like your future to be. To not rely on language, to not rely on maps that were given to you, that were, given to you from people that might have had ill intentions or might have had power intentions, and start to make your own map. And your own map comes out of your actual memory. Water and light comes out of your own image. So I hope this all made sense to everyone. And we'll go further on all of this in the future. I've got a few other ideas that I'm kind of juggling, a few conversations that I wanted to put this stuff out here. So I would assume if a few people ask me or don't have understanding, then there's probably a lot more that have a similar point of view. So have a beautiful day, everyone. Chat soon.